10 random magic cards rated day number 186 with a special guest. Say hello, Ham. Let me. He's a hammy. Let's see. Can I put you down, buddy? Is that okay? You're actually extremely heavy for a Pomeranian. What are you, like 15 pounds? We gotta get you on the treadmill, man. You and me both. All right, so 186 is what we're doing today, everybody. Sorry for the very short handbrake. I know how much more handsome he is than me, but you also want to know what the first card is. So let's see what it is. It's going to be Vile Redeemer from Oath of the Gatewatch. I don't remember you at all. This is 3 mana, 2 and a green for a 3/3 Eldrazi with Devoid and Flash. When you cast Vile Redeemer, you may pay a colorless mana. If you do, you get a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token for each non-token creature that died under your control this turn. Those tokens have sacrifice this creature, you get a colorless mana. Okay, so if you pay a total of 4 for this, you can respond to sweepers with it and get a bunch of ramp in place of the creatures that died. This is actually kind of cute in like a green-black aristocrats deck, isn't it? If you're doing green-black aristocrats, sacrifice all your guys, bring this guy in, and you get a bunch of dudes that you can then just sack. You don't even have to sack them to a thing. You just sack them for mana and spend, get more stuff. I don't know. This is kind of neat. But altogether, I do feel like it's one of those cards that kind of rots. Rots in your hand until the exact right moment. And at any point in the game, it could have been a better card that did a thing. So these, as far as like sweeper responses go, I do think there's probably better ones. But I do like a whole boatload of mana all at one time. Like this could theoretically more than pay for itself. So that would be very cute, especially if you set it up that way. Again, by sacrificing a bunch of dudes and then getting a bunch of mana this way. And, it'd be cool. But still, I'm just going to give this like a 4.6 to start the day. Again, I think in the realm of sweeper responses, we can do better for the most part. Azorius Arrestor from Return to Ravnica. Nice little cube guy. Like if you're building your own draft environment, I kind of like this dude. 2 mana, 1 and a white for a 2/1 human soldier. When he ETBs, detain a creature an opponent controls. So that creature can't attack or block, and it can't activate its abilities until your next turn. So just keep that guy from attacking is usually how this plays out. But sometimes it can stop a creature from blocking too. Like detain is a interesting ability, especially with blinks and stuff. So solid little creature here that I'm going to give a 3.7 to. It's not that bad. It really is not. Mantis Engine up next from Urza's Destiny. Not a very good card. 5 mana for a 3/3 artifact creature. It's an insect too. You can pay 2 mana to have it gain flying, or you can pay 2 mana to have it gain first strike. Both of these abilities until end of turn, obviously. Boy, that's not a very good magic card. A worse than a Hill Giant, right? A 5 mana 3/3 that you have to pay to give keyword abilities to. Yikes. Best thing about this is the John Zalesnik art. By far, just like most of the cards in Urza's Destiny, this definitely has a vibe. I'm going to give it a 1.3 though. It's a pretty bad magic card. Winnower Patrol from Only Morningtide next. This is 3 mana, 2 and a green for a 3/2 elf warrior with kinship. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may look at the top card of your library. If it shares a creature type with Patrol, you may reveal it. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on Patrol. So takes a turn to maybe become a 4 mana 4/3. Then I guess it can be a 5/4. Whatever. Still not super great. 1.4 at the absolute most. I think it's slightly better than a Mantis Engine. Next is Chilling Trap from Zendikar Rising. A single blue mana for an instant. Target creature gets -4, -0 until end of turn. If you control a wizard, draw a card. That's the good part right there. That's the good part of the card. But even if you're playing Commander Wizards, like Odalise the Cinder Wind or whatever it's called, I don't know that you play this. But it is a 1 mana cantrip, and that deck really wants those. So I might be wrong, but like -4, -0, probably the weakest thing blue does. For all the love blue gets, for all the hate blue gets, for how powerful it is, and it counterspells and it draws cards, it also has some of like the lamest abilities. You know what I mean? Like minus power on a creature is a blue ability on the color wheel. And so is like Mill. And like Mill has traditionally not been like that strong despite all the hate that it gets. So, this is one of those things that blue does. But you can make a good version of the card and it's still not that good, which is kind of what this is. I'm going to give this a 3.7 6, and the only reason it's that high is because it's 1 mana draw card, right? But I still don't know that it's going to be worth it like most of the time. Augury Owl from Magic 2011. This is a pseudo side reprint of a Sage Owl from Weatherlight. 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a 1/1 bird with flying. When it ETB, scry 3. So it's kind of like a Sage Owls. Just look at the top 4 of your library, put them back or whatever in any order. This actually allows you to put the cards away, which is pretty sweet in like draft and stuff. But it's, again, it's not like the most powerful Magic card. But that said, it's better than some of the stuff we looked at today. I'll give this a 3.75, and I'm serious. It's Scry 3 on ETB is pretty good. It's really not that bad. Oh, it's Ether Flash from Weatherlight. Here's a sick card. 4 mana, 2 and 2 red for an enchantment. Whenever any creature comes into play, Ether Flash deals 2 damage to that creature. You can't play small dudes for the rest of the game. No one can. So you gotta, adjust your toughness figures accordingly in your decks. But this is still such a sweet card, dude. It really is. 70 cents for a Weatherlight version. It's worth it all day. That is worth it every day of the week. Just kind of a classic card that you don't really see too much anymore, but I still think it's kind of a banger. Seriously, this just like completely shuts certain commanders entirely out, which is insane. It's good in your Enrage deck, obviously, stuff like that. So a neat little thing, man. If you have like Boris Reckoners and Screaming Nemesis, bang. So it's pretty cool, all things considered. I will give this a 6.71, which is really high. I know, but Ether Flash is so annoying. If you've never played against this card, it's so aggravating, especially depending on your commander. Academy Drake is up next from Dominaria. 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a 2/2 Drake with kicker 4 and flying. If it was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters. So it's been 7 mana for a 4/4 flyer. I guess you'll do it in limited sometimes. And at the very least, this is just strictly better Wind Drake. So it's like not horrible. 3.1, somewhere in that territory. So, Soul Warden, originally printed in Exodus. Yep, it's exactly when it was printed. Never miss. This is a single white mana for a human cleric. It's a 1/1, and whenever any other creature comes into play at all, controlled by you or one of your opponents, you get to gain 1 life. Unbelievable. The best of all the Soul Sisters, the eldest of all the Soul Sisters as well, and still incredible art by Randy Gallagher. What a pretty lady. But this is an all-time banger, dude. What do you give Soul Warden? Because all it really does is gain you life. I know it does more than that. Hold on. But on the wheel of ability power level, right? Like gaining life is actually pretty low. On the wheel? How can things be low on a wheel? Ladder? No. The tier list. It's low on the tier list of abilities, like things you can do in Magic. Gaining life isn't great, but it's all the triggers this sets off, and the fact that it deters your opponent from playing creatures, else your Ajani's Pridemate, Essence Channeler, whatever you're playing, Voice of the Blessed, all that stuff gets larger. And all your other life gain triggers go off. So you might be drawing cards or making creatures or all the different stuff that a life gain deck does whenever it gains life. And you might be doing that on their turn when they play creatures. And it also keeps them from playing creatures at certain times of the game. They almost never want to do it pre-combat. So just no other, or at least it's very, very uncommon, but I'm fairly certain that just like no other Soul Sister cares when your opponent's creatures comes into play. I think maybe Soul's Attendant does. I think it's possible that Soul's Attendant does. But all the newer ones they print, like Hinterland Sanctifier, Lunarch Veteran, those are very specifically your creatures, and they're just far worse as a result. Or they make them 2 mana, like Life Creed Duo, Impassioned Order. Those are typically not as good either, just because they cost twice as much as a Soul Warden. The difference between 1 and 2 mana is an entire turn early in the game, and that just makes all the difference. A lot of hemming and hawing here, but this is probably going to be the best card that we see today, and it's one of my favorite cards in the history of Magic. Very excited to hit this. So let's give her a 7.7. And I don't know if that's going to be high enough for some people. As a matter of fact, it's not high enough for me. I'll give this an 8. I'll stop being a coward, and I'll move all the way to 8. I'm not sure this is as strong as some of the other cards we've given an 8 to, though, and that's kind of what's giving me pause here. But for her place in Magic history, and for the fact that Soul Sisters was a real modern deck for years and years and years, and a good budget one at that, and just a card that I played on kitchen tables and in Commander decks and standard decks way back in the day, Type 2 decks, whatever. She really does have a place, man. Everyone loves Soul Warden, or at least, you know, even people that don't like Life Gain tend to be like, ooh, Soul Warden. So, good last card of the day. I will give Soul Warden an 8. I think she deserves every last point of that. I've justified it to myself, but it's only been 10 minutes and we've gone through 10 cards because a lot of them weren't very good today. It feels right to end on Soul Warden and not take another spin and get a terrible card. But again, we're only like 10 and a half minutes in. Let's give it a shot. It's Fertile Ground. This isn't too bad. Originally printed in Urza's Saga. Is he right? Yes, he's always right. Why do I even question myself? Two mana, 1 and a green for an enchant land. Whenever the enchanted land is tapped for mana, it produces 1 mana of any color additionally. So besides the mana it produced, you get a second mana. That's the whole point of the card. This is Wild Growth, but Wild Growth can only produce green mana. The difference is Wild Growth costs a single mana. This costs 2. We just discussed why that matters. Fertile Ground is still good, though. It's reminiscent of, a Rampant Growth or a Farseek or something like that. But it is an enchantment, so you'll draw cards off of all your Enchantress effects and all that stuff. Your Yavimaya Enchantress gets larger. So this is actually a pretty good Magic card that's gone in a bunch of my decks. It's in my Sithis Harvest Hands deck, or Harvest's Hand deck, back when that was together. And just about anything enchantment related, basically anything green. I think you could probably work in Fertile Ground, although again, like Farseek might be better, but maybe you want multiple effects like this. This finds a lot of homes, and for what it's worth, the Heather Hudson art from Urza's Saga is gorgeous. A beautiful, beautiful use of color here. Altogether, I'm going to give Fertile Ground a 6.6. Yeah, it's a good Magic card. Always has been. I think the debate will rage on forever as to which is better, Wild Growth or Fertile Ground. Ultimately, I think Wild Growth is probably better, costing only 1 mana. But, depends on how many colors are in your deck and what you're trying to do, right? Fertile Ground is very solid. But all around, good day. We started on some not great cards and then ended up on a few bangers. So let's hope we can bring the whole week around like that, right? Let's hope the rest of your Monday's good. I'll see you guys tomorrow.